Hello, everyone. This is Giulio Coraggio. I'm the location head of the Italian Intellectual Property and Technology Department at DLA Piper. This is the podcast Diritto al Digitale, and today I'm super happy to have as our guest Shannon Lazzarini. Shannon Lazzarini has a super long title. She's head of Group Legal Advice and Litigation and Group Deputy General Counsel at UniCredit. Welcome, Shannon, and thanks for accepting our invite.
Thank you, Giulio, and thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here and have this conversation with you.
Shannon speaks a perfect Italian, but we prefer to have this conversation in English so that it can be more of an international debate with open to international audience, because you have an incredibly international background, Shannon. If I'm not wrong, you started your studies in the US, you started your career for over 10 years in the US, and then it was a big move to Italy, where obviously you still have a very international role. Can you give us a snippet of your background, what you gained from all these different experiences throughout your career, and something useful for our audience?
I've been very lucky to be a child of two cultures. So my mom is American and my dad is Italian. And I actually grew up in Italy until the Quarta Ginnasio, so the first year of high school, and then moved to the United States, to New York. I've had, I think, a pretty colorful career in that I probably changed 4 times. And that's probably one of the takeaways that I wanted to share with you and our audience. So I actually got to New York because I was a classical ballet dancer. And I went there to pursue a dream very young at 14 at the School of American Ballet, which is the school for the New York City Ballet, one of the premier companies in the world. And then I got injured. And so that dream could no longer be fulfilled. Luckily, I hadn't neglected my studies. So I went on to university in New York at Columbia and studied art history, which is another love and passion of mine. And I was lucky enough to work at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And specifically, I was teaching children, sometimes also from disenfranchised neighborhoods, about art, about how you learn about a culture through art, and also bringing the museum closer to the communities. And so that was my second career. And then I changed again and decided that law school may be something that I wanted to try out. And so I went to law school at Columbia, so I remained in New York, and then joined a big law firm. I was at Skadden Arps for, I think it was 10 years. And there I really leveraged on being a child of two cultures, because I worked in cross-border litigation and arbitration. And then UniCredit was one of my clients, and I got this wonderful opportunity to join the bank and form the litigation department. And then I expanded my responsibilities to also include the banking advisory work and the supervision of our subsidiaries. So I think the takeaway for me and what I would like to share is that it's okay to change careers multiple times in your life. I think I was incredibly enriched by this. I also, the typical question that you get in interviews, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I've never been able to answer that. And I've come to the conclusion that that is fine, but that doesn't mean that you should be blind to opportunities. You should seek them out and also understand, I think, from an early age, what you want to do and what you don't want to do, what you are good at and what you probably, where you need to work on your weaknesses. So these are probably some takeaways from my path thus far.
Wow, this is fascinating. Maybe you don't know, but my 3 kids, they are Canadian / American / Chinese, because and obviously slash Italian, because my wife is Canadian, her family is from China, and they were all born in the United States. So I think that your story is fascinating. What do you think that helped you to switch? I mean, something where I always try to work on with my team, with my kids, is that you need to have grit in your life, because I had so many doors on my face, but then I was falling and raising, and I was raising stronger than before. I mean, it cannot go. Life is not, it's made of ups and downs, at least from what I see.
That's right. And I think if I look back, I probably learned more and gained more strengths from situations in which I thought everything was crumbling. And, the example of getting injured, which ended my career and dream of being a professional classical ballet dancer, that happened very young. I was 18. And it was devastating and crushing, but it was a life lesson, right? To pick yourself up, to, I guess, reinvent yourself. Because when you are an athlete or a ballet dancer, it's really your identity and your life. And I think that's was an important lesson, to learn at a young age, and be open to various possibilities. I have also frequently been driven by what I love. So, I of course I started with ballet, but then art history. But then I always was someone that was curious, intellectually curious, and that's sort of what pushed me into being a litigator. It was a chance to marry the practical and the academic, and a practice where I was given a chance to learn about a lot of different industries, because problems can pop up everywhere, and a lot of different laws, and that was great fun. So every time that a new case came along, it was learning about a new business, a new industry, and a new area of law. So I found that very enriching.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your current role, obviously you need to deal with an economic outset that is increasingly complicated. I mean, we had recently the COVID, and then Russia. And what would you say, if you need to pin 2, 3 aspects of your current role that are more complex, and how you need to adjust your way of managing your role depending on the circumstances that are always at the outset? What would you mention as more complicated and more valuable for your role?
So I think as in-house lawyers, we have challenges coming from two industries, the banking industry and, of course, the legal industry, and we are a bridge between the two. So certainly the dynamism and the speed with which you have to adjust are two factors that are increasingly so. And so, as a lawyer that lives inside of a complex organism such as the bank, you need to be able to adjust rapidly, which is probably a reprise that we're hearing from a lot of different voices. But what that means is actually to be strong at your core of what are the building blocks of being good advisors. So, be able to spot the issues, be able to zero in and really understand what is at the core of the substantive problem that you have to resolve and you have to look at, and being able to have a 360-degree view. And I think the legal education, or at least the one that I was so lucky to enjoy, gives us the right tools to do that. We are incredibly lucky to have a profession that allows us to follow the dots and see connections that perhaps others are not as equipped to do. And I think that is a skill that is a true value in the industry and in the environment that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke about how transformative your profession is. I mean, I believe that at this specific moment, we are in a situation where the legal profession is going to change, and it's going to change rapidly. I mean, when we started, I remember like a due diligence were all made with paper notes, and maybe you were in a basement, and it was very well. We had the goal, but now our junior colleagues are much better treated. You at UniCredit, you launched a couple of years ago the project Unique Legal that is looking ahead or how a bank like yours needs to operate. Can you give us a snapshot of what Unique Legal is and how you believe that in the coming years, the management of an in-house legal team like yours is going to change?
So Unique Legal is a partnership between UniCredit and two Italian law firms, La Scala and Advant NCTM. And it was the idea behind it was to marry two excellences, right? So the knowledge and experience that the UniCredit legal team had in managing big processes, big volumes, and the skill, professionalism of the law firm, and also their particular attention to technology and embedding technology in the legal process. It is conceived to be, a law firm that can be very attuned to the needs of the client in a way that perhaps is different and is not in competition with the large global law firms such as DLA, because we're really targeting those activities that can be repeated, that can be benefit from sort of a standardization, which does not mean a drop in quality. It just means that some repetitive activities, there's no need to waste a young lawyer's time to do that. That can be substituted and complemented by a machine. So that really was the idea behind Unique Legal, and it's now been 3 years since its inception, and it has expanded also in the number of services that it provides. We started with litigation, and we added criminal law related to banking activities, and we added the advisory activities as well. So I think that is indicative of ways in which the internal legal team in a company needs to be innovative and needs to look at what could be perceived as constraints, such as your budget cuts, your FTE cuts, as a great chance to think outside of the box and perhaps bring at the table solutions that perhaps you won't think about if you're not forced to really try to continue delivering quality, to be there for your clients, for your stakeholders, but in a world where the resources are what they are, and you need to be part of the organism of the bank and contribute to the overall industrial plan. So it's been a wonderful journey and continued evolution, and we're always looking at new ways and new projects in which this collaboration can continue.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. We're actually working on several projects for clients where we're trying to help them to embed artificial intelligence, machine learning in the operation of an in-house legal team, because as you mentioned, repetitive work is still time consuming for your team. It requires resources, and these resources can be easily replaced by machine so that the same people will be used on other tasks. So you're not replacing individuals with machines, but you're just addressing these individuals on more value-added tasks. I think this is the future, and I really like when you said that when you have a tight budget, you need to be innovative. I think this is the right skill set. And normally, for instance, startups with a very large funding, they get bankrupt, while where there is a tight budget, they make it work. Shannon, it was a fascinating talk. I thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure there will be opportunities to talk again in the coming months.
Thank you, Giulio. It was wonderful to have this chat with you this morning.